Welcome to Standing on Business with Eric Foss. I'm your host, Eric Foss. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Standing on Business with Eric Foss. I'm your host, Eric Foss. Well, tonight we got some breaking news. There's been a plea agreement reached in the Whitey Bulger murder. Okay, this was a situation that happened about 6 years ago, which everybody should be familiar with. Whitey Bulger, let's give a little history on him. He was an Irish guy from Boston, and they say like he was the head of the Irish mob, whatever, you know, they like to label things. But anyway, the guy was a real gangster. He did a lot of really horrible things, a lot of bodies, a lot of just terrible things. So apparently he was an FBI informant. But it also seems like to me, with this situation, that he had dirty FBI agents and federal agents working for him. So, with that being said, he gets into, luck runs out, whatever happens. So now he's wanted. So Bulger goes on the run. I believe he stayed on the run for about 16 years. Eventually they go and they capture him. Okay, now here's the deal. When they capture him, the way the Federal Bureau of Prisons works, they have directors, they have bigwigs that are in charge of this. This isn't, when you go into federal prison, as you come in, they have pictures on the wall of the president because he is technically the head of the Federal Bureau of Prisons. This is how serious this stuff is. So, when they lock up Bulger and sentence him, give him his time, they send him to basically what's called a dropout yard. A dropout yard is you're going to be around people that were in gangs, that dropped out of gangs, maybe high-profile snitches, high-profile sex offenders, stuff like that, where really it's safe. Anything can happen anywhere, though, but that's safe. Like, normal people can go to them yards also, but, like, you can't be affiliated with nothing, anything like that. So that's where Bulger was doing the bulk of his time, at Coleman 2. That's a penitentiary, but Coleman 1 is also a penitentiary, and Coleman 2 is basically the dropout, protective custody yard, whatever you want to call it. Like I said, regular people can go there too. So everybody there is not on protective custody or not a dropout, whatever. But anyway, so as this is all coming down the pipeline, the director of the Bureau of Prisons, because it's Grand Prairie, Texas, that actually sends you to your destination when you're getting transferred or anything like that. Grand Prairie, Texas is the one who takes care of all that. So people oversee this stuff. Now, they sent him to Hazleton Penitentiary, USP Hazleton, which is in West Virginia. Now, Hazleton is one of the newer penitentiaries. When I say newer, it's like, these places were built in the 2000s and stuff like that. So these are your most violent places. Trust what I tell you. There's nothing to do in there. They don't have the weights. They don't have a bunch of stuff. So all penitentiaries are bad, but Hazleton, one of the worst. So look, everybody who's been in the feds, done any type of time, and I'm talking about just regular people like myself or any other person who's been in the feds will tell you this. Whitey Bulger was going to be killed when he got to Hazleton. Don't even think no other type of way. Everybody knew that. So, why would they send him there? You think they didn't know that? They know everything. They know everything. They know the rules of the prison and the prison yards. It didn't matter that he went to a unit where there was people from Boston or whatever. It wouldn't have mattered. It didn't have to be. As soon as he hit that unit, the white dudes would have had to take care of him because he's a high-profile rat. Point blank, period. That's what he's known as. So, my point being now, it was, I'm going to butcher these names, okay? Freddie Gias, he's a Greek guy from Boston. He was already doing life, okay? Already doing life for some bodies, stuff like that. Paulie DiColorgio, I know him personally, but I still can't say his name. I know him and his brother. He's pretty cool. I knew him and his brother Johnny. We were in Schuylkill together. I hope that he's got a cap on his plea agreement, C plea. which it looks like he does. There's been no details let out about the plea yet, but it's looking like that. And I'll tell you why. Because there was a third guy, I think McKinnon is his last name. Now, basically, what this kid did was just watch the door. And then when they questioned him, obviously he lied to the feds or whatever. First off, he should never open his mouth and said nothing, because these people aren't stupid. Just don't say nothing, man. Just don't say nothing. But anyway, so as far as I can get on this, I seen his mother, because nobody's releasing no statements. So I seen the kid McKinnon's mother made a statement to the newspaper that her and her son were talking recently, and they're hoping that he could be sentenced to around the 2 years that he's already been held on this charge, because he was I believe he went home and they rearrested him. Okay, so now what that's telling me there is that there is some type of decent deal going on here, because, and it does not look like he's cooperating on them, because they're all taking the plea at the same time. They're all getting sentenced the same day that they take the plea. So it don't look like there's no funny stuff amongst them. So this kid's probably, you know, on the up and up. But if they're thinking like this, that's a very, very, very favorable sentence for this kid. Now, the reason people are going to say, well, all he did was watch the door and stuff like that. Listen, do not believe that. I know a few people who are doing life in prison right now, in federal prison, for watching the door. They never threw a punch, never did anything. Okay, it doesn't work how you think. I don't care if you had knowledge of it, you were involved in any type of way, you're going to be facing the same type of exposure. Now, looking a little bit into this, and I'm just using my knowledge of being in the feds. There's a few things that I've spoken on here before that's, if I use this case, proves me right. I've gave a message out when I've been on other shows, especially to the younger generation, about these federal prisons and penitentiaries, about how you got these guys in there who are sitting in there for many years. Some of these lifers, some of these guys, they've been sitting in there 20 years, 30 years, and they've been sitting on the wall. Some guys maybe not even been in there that long, but they're just in that environment. It's a very stressful environment. Trust what I tell you. Nobody wants to go through that. It's very stressful and very scary. Believe what I'm telling you. So now look, from what I'm reading, basically what happened is what I said. Like I told the younger people, some of these guys are just waiting for you guys to get there and do something really stupid. Take somebody's life. So they can go back to court and they can go home. And that's how that works. I know people who've struck deals with the feds to tell on other people inside the joint, and they were doing life sentences, and they actually came home. And I think their co-defendants came home too. Not going to get into names, none of that kind of stuff, but I know these people personally. Okay, so anything I tell you is just my knowledge of how things work. So with all this being said now, basically what happened was he shows up at midnight or whatever. They put him in the cell. Everybody's yelling, rat, rat this, rat that, rat this. Bulger's just sitting there. He knows what time it is. He knows he's going to die. Some people say, well, why didn't he complain? There was no point in him kicking and screaming. He knew what time it was when they transferred him. There's no way around this. It's not like what people are thinking. This was not supposed to happen. There's some type of higher ups that were involved in this. Now, with that being said, you had a lawsuit. You had a lawsuit from Whitey Bulger's family against the Bureau of Prisons, which was dismissed. Now, all of a sudden, with this case, they're just handing out this, looks like favorable plea deals. That doesn't add up. I believe the feds, the directors, whoever the bigwigs are, because this is bigger than just a CO or somebody sitting in Grand Prairie. Trust me. So I believe that they didn't want no trial. They did not want this to come out in trial because of the publicity of it, because it's Whitey Bulger. You're going to have court reporters in there. Usually anybody in federal court, there's a court reporter in there. They're in there when I go to court, and I'm not on no level like that. So anyway, it seems that they just didn't want certain things to come out, which is how these people work. you can go back. Some of you guys know a lot about the mob and stuff. You can go back to Anthony Gaspipe Casso. Okay, he's dead now, but he was underboss of the Lucchese crime family. The guy was violent, vicious dude, high up, made a lot of money, did a lot of crazy stuff or whatever. So he catches his charge. Now, he had a deal for, I believe, 20 years, something like that. It was worked out, and it was with his cooperation. Now, here's what happens. During the course of Gaspipe's cooperation, he starts giving up a lot of stuff. Now, he wasn't really a smart guy. Like, he was a cunning, street smart guy, but he wasn't very book smart. So he botched names and stuff like that. So basically, the situation with him is he was telling the feds all the information he knew on people about murder, stuff like that. So he told on the mob cops. Those were the ones that Eppolito and Stephen Caracappa. Okay, everybody's heard about their case. The one idiot went on Oprah, promoted his book, and that's how he got wrapped up in it. But anyway, long story short, so Gaspipe is telling on them. Now, I don't think that he knew their exact names, whatever, but as he's in the course of all this telling, he did a couple things. He said something about Sammy the Bull Gravano that was not disclosed at the trial when he testified against John Gotti or something. So basically showing that the feds covered some stuff up about Gravano. And then he made the cardinal mistake. He apparently said not only did he know about the dirty cops, which were New York state cops, regular city cops, Eppolito and Caracappa, he said he had a dirty fed. They told him he didn't. He said, yes, he did. They told him, no, you don't. Yes, he did. No, you don't. Yes, I do. They ripped up his agreement and gave him 6 life sentences and did not use his cooperation. On record. Let's do it that way, because they used his cooperation. What they then did is they went to a guy, Burt Kaplan. He was a Jewish guy. I was in Gilmer at this time with Burt Kaplan. I didn't really know who he was. He's just a short Jewish guy with a big nose who swept the compound. All of a sudden, they take him off the compound. Nobody sees him ever again. He's passed away now of cancer, but he went back, and he's the one who, he was putting everything together for Gaspipe. He went back, and he cooperated, and he's the one who put the mob cops away without Gaspipe. He got the credit for it and everything. Now, so what happened with Gaspipe? Why did they rip up his agreement? Why did he get 6 life sentences from 20 years or something like that for cooperating? I'm going to tell you why. Because he was going to disclose information that the feds do not want disclosed. They do not want it to come out that there's dirty federal officers. They don't. They love busting cops. That's what they like to do. The state level cops and stuff like that, they love that. The prosecutors love that. It gives them a name, stuff like that. But they don't want one of their own to come across as dirty. That could open a can of worms. So the easier thing for them to do, they already got the information for Gaspipe, whatever, rip everything up, boom, send him away. He's just some jerk-off liar, scumbag, which he's a jerk-off scumbag liar. He is all them things. So his word's nothing. So now you no longer have dirty feds. Kaplan wasn't going to go and talk about a dirty fed. Kaplan was a little bit brighter. So that's what I'm trying to say with this Whitey Bulger situation, what's going on. If it would have went to trial, a lot of things would have been exposed, and people would have been called to testify. All right. Defense attorneys could have called, because it's kind of entrapment if you really want to break it down. This is what the angle I would take if I was a defense attorney representing any of these guys. I would have said, man, this is entrapment. I mean, you're dangling a carrot in front of these guys. You know what's going on. You know that man's not supposed to be there. You know the politics. You know the rules. What's going to happen to that man when he gets there. Or else the same thing's going to happen to them guys who don't do it, if you catch my drift. So it's basically a type of entrapment. Now, with that, people say, oh, well, they'll beat that. That's not going to fly, which it probably wouldn't fly. It probably wouldn't get them off, but it would expose a lot of things. Because as the defense attorney, I would summons the people in Grand Prairie, Texas. And I would put them on a stand and say, hey, why did you guys designate Whitey Bulger to Hazleton Penitentiary? You took him from a protective custody yard, which he was fine. And there's other protective custody yards. Arizona, where Gas Pipe died, you could have put him in ADX. If you didn't like him, wanted himself, put him in ADX for the rest of his life. Because ADX isn't just for the roughest, toughest, worst inmates. It's also for the most protected. It's PC for real. There's no real contact, anything like that. So there's situations where they could have done all these things and they were supposed to. So being a defense attorney, if I was their defense attorney, I would have called them in, questioned them, like, well, why was this done? I don't believe the feds wanted that, because when a person's sitting up there under oath, risking, their self going to prison, and they're not the higher up, they had orders to do certain things, and certain things were signed off on, they're going to sit there and they're going to tell who signed off on it. So then what's going to happen is, now that person's going to be under scrutiny and question. A lot of things would come out. They ducked this. The government's not stupid. They ducked this, and that's where I'm looking. It's probably a favorable plea. I hope that they capped out Paulie at not a lot of time. It's called a C plea. And hopefully the Door kid, the guy Freddie, I think he's doing life anyway, so he probably doesn't give a fuck. You know what I mean? He probably doesn't give a fuck. He's never getting out anyway. But at the end of the day, these guys were getting out. One kid was out. So with all that being said, it's like people don't realize the corruption that goes on in these situations. You sat here and you had a guy that obviously the feds didn't like. But there's a lot of guys the feds don't like. There's a lot of places to put them people. Like I said, he could have put him in ADX. He wasn't going to live that long anyway. So it's not like it would have been such a hard thing. There's more to this story. But you're going against the government. When people on here, I'll see people making comments when they talk about some of these cases and things like that. And my favorite one is this, like if it's somebody popular or something, they'll say, oh yeah, well, yeah, they got that money. They'll do that. Money does not make a difference to these people. They print the money. Remember that. They print the money. There's plenty of rich people in the feds. Plenty of rich people. People got way more money than your favorite rapper, your favorite actor, stuff like that. Trust me, it doesn't make a difference. They have all the resources. They are the cream of the crop. This is the United States government. They don't play games. You see how they cover things up here. So you don't think that this was a cover-up? There's so much more to this story with Whitey Bulger. I'm so on the line, like he's definitely was an informant, because it goes both ways anyway. In that type of level, in that type of life. But what did he really know? What was really going on? There's something big to this. Nobody's really looking into that. It's something really huge. And now it's just like, for a person who's been through the feds and knows a little bit about how these people operate, you see things like this and you're like, okay, just like the boy's mother, McKinnon, the kid who was watching the door, whatever, she's happy. She said that he's happy. Okay, the feds made you happy. See, they want things to go away. They just want this story to go away. And it is. You can't play with these people. And a guy like a Whitey Bulger, they probably knew that he was ready to just spill everything. And it would have just caused a whole snowball effect, and the government would have been put out there, because they do not want to be seen as dirty. Remember who you're playing with. It doesn't matter, like when you're playing with these people, it doesn't matter who you are. These are the same people who went over there and got Saddam Hussein and his kids. It's a whole different ball game out there and some of you guys have been locked up. I had a talk with a buddy today, and he's a good guy, and he did something they could have got himself into a little pickle. Let me put it that way. I'm not going to go into details. He didn't commit no crime or nothing, but something that could have put bad attention on him. And, I had to hit him up and I had to say, listen, you're playing in the wrong ball game. You don't want these people to put you on their radar. You know what I mean? Because it's nothing like you've ever experienced. They don't play games. Everybody who's been locked up with whatever state they're in, you'll see, like, when you get locked up here, it'll say State of Maryland versus Eric Foss. Say it's California, State of California versus Eric Foss. When the feds come and get you, it says United States of America versus you. And it's really the truth. They have too many resources. As you can see, they will cover their tracks. They do not care. They do not care. Don't think that it's such a coincidence when these higher up people, these billionaires, these people with all this money, these big time, all of a sudden the Epstein type people, they just come up dead. I give you one from where I'm from Baltimore City. We had the gun trace task force. Yeah, a bunch of road cops running around. They went to federal prison. They were running around robbing drug dealers, doing all kind of fucked up shit. You know what I mean? So anyway, they went to federal prison. Well, there was also a detective on that case named Suter, Detective Suter. Now, he wasn't with the gun trace task force, but he was involved in some shit, and he knew some shit or whatever. Anyway, one day in West Baltimore, he was down there, him and his partner's around the corner or whatever. Somebody comes out of the alley, wrestles him, blah, 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 gets his gun and shoots him in the head or whatever. And then he dies. And then they're saying that he did it to himself, whatever. He didn't do that to himself. But here's the key. Here's the key. Here's how you know it was way bigger than just some state people and just small-time people because of this. They offered, I believe, a $250,000 reward for information on that in one of the poorest neighborhoods in the country. One of the most poverty-stricken neighborhoods in the country. Let me tell you something. If that would have been a regular street guy who did that, he would have been locked up so quick. His own baby's mother would have told on him for that money. Come on, man. You got people out here telling little people for $100. And that's the truth. So you got to understand, when you get to certain levels, there's big cover-ups. Detective Suter's family, they know it. They've been screaming it for years. They've been fighting it. That's something that hit a federal level somewhere. We had a prosecutor back in 2004, maybe around almost 2005. This is when I was going through my case. We had two guys locked up down here from Stash House Records, Fella and Fats. Well, anyway, they were being prosecuted by this guy named Jonathan Luna. He was a federal prosecutor. Well, all of a sudden, they had struck a plea deal or whatever, which was a favorable plea deal for them. Well, one night, Jonathan Luna, something was going on. We had a United States attorney named Thomas DiBaggio then. This is before Rod Rodenstein took over. Well, something was going on with Thomas DiBaggio and this prosecutor. A little bit of bad blood, maybe. Who knows? Nothing ever really got out, but there was something going on. All of a sudden, this man leaves the courthouse. He had a late night figuring out the plea bargains and all that stuff. The next day, they were supposed to take a plea. Drives up somewhere in Pennsylvania, and they found him stabbed about 27 times with a penknife laying in a little creek, dead. They said he committed suicide. Nobody's ever been caught. Nothing. They just said that was suicide. DiBaggio, not long afterwards, leaves his position as a United States attorney. Now he's a defense attorney. This all just went away. This all just went away. This isn't a game. These people do not play. There's going to be a lot of speculation around this and around this case. And I don't know, maybe Bulger's family, maybe something may have been given under the table, some money. But there's something that people don't want. Listen, the feds don't want something to come out about this. So, that's just a little breaking news or whatever. I don't know much on the topic. I'm going to put out a little bit more content tonight. We're going to talk about the mob wars going on here on YouTube. It should be a dude, I'm going to break it down to you. It should be a South Park skit. I'm not going to lie to you. We just got to figure out who's going to play who in the South Park edition. So I'm going to make that content, and I'll put that out after this. But, guys, until next time, remember, always stand on business.